Well, it's that time again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the interview with Craig Veltri.
Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to the interview. Ameri F'n Kinda is perhaps the most apropos of titles for an album that I have ever reviewed for this podcast. The Denver born singer songwriter's 2023 album hovers around Americana music, which I've always felt was a catch all term. Ameri F'n Kinda hits around the bullseye by being too rock and punk with a twang almost, with That's a Strange Way to Say I Love You, to Never Slow Down having a CCR motif, that's Creedence Clearwater Revival for anybody keeping score, and Further Down the Road, which has a Tom Petty meets Turnpike Troubadours vibe. Further Down the Road has been re-released this past year as a duet with Miles Bali, and we'll play the album version of Further Down the Road at the end of this episode. Recording in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and calling in from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, here he is, Trevor Toms. Trevor, welcome to the interview.
Hey, thank you, Craig. It's great to be here.
Uh, it seems to be a motif for you, considering your first record in 2022 was called Barely Country, to be continuing on Ameri F'n Kinda. Is this, it almost seems like you're daring and anybody that listens to it, to your records, to pigeonhole you. Is that the intention when you go into a studio?
Absolutely. A lot of folks in the industry say, pick a lane. And I had an interesting conversation recently with a mentor of mine who said, well, that doesn't mean you have to pick somebody else's definition of a lane. You have to describe what you're about personally, choose a lane. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself into a genre, but you do have to be clear about what you're selling, you know.
Well, you started out back in Denver, Colorado, as a metal artist. Where did the transition come to when you coming into less society? I mean, like I say, you did pretty much have a punk song on the last record, but
Right.
where did the shift it to more country and more acoustic type music happen?
Yeah, it's funny, man. I've been all over the place. In high school I had a originals only sort of doo-wop garage rock sort of thing.
Doo-wop garage, like
Yeah, that was weird.
complete with choreography.
We had matching costumes and every we had a mascot that was this big 3 foot wide paper mache sea tortoise. It was a lot of things. It was kind of a goofball, party band, right?
What
For
was
high
the name of the band?
Quagmire.
Did you have a song called Giggity Giggity by any chance?
I wish. I wish. I think that was before that show even came out. And then it's cool in college to be in a metal band. That was fun.
We had one in our fraternity back when I was in college. So yes, that
Right.
is true.
And
So from where you started to where you are now, I mean, Aaron Lewis had and I don't think your music it would match up certainly to where Aaron Lewis is now. I don't know what
right,
you were doing back in college, but
right.
he had said in interviews that a lot of the reason that he got away from metal was that he just wasn't that guy anymore. He wasn't that angry. He had kids at that point.
Yeah.
So he was kind of focusing in. Was that a similar path
Yeah,
for you?
I'd say so. I also found that that wasn't really my voice, not only just, artistically, but like physically, that wasn't my voice. And I found that I've written a lot more in this vein of folk and generally Americana, which I put it in quotes because similar to how you were leading into it, Americana has become a catch-all term for a lot of different artists, especially these days.
Mhm.
Um, and I
And
just,
because it's so catch-all, I mean, how do you define it, and can you define it anymore?
yeah, I think it's a challenge. There's something I look to the the Americana Awards, for example, here in Nashville. The last few years, this year would I would say it's different. This year I would call it Americana. But I would say in years past there would be a band or a song that wins that I was like, oh, that's traditional country. And that is straight folk. And this might be Americana. And this, they're kind of it's been used broadly in that sense. Um,
There were some bands that you would say that actually, dare I say, fit that lane of Americana.
well, going back to Whiskey Town, that was Ryan Adams. I mean, I think he's one of the, those people that took that twang and a little bit of some kind of rock and roll, um, but put it all together into folk storytelling, and singer-songwriter storytelling. Uh, Another one, Lucero, is another band that uh, has also, I mean, they kind of sound like a punk band until you listen to some of their themes and some of their instrumentation. But based on his voice and guitar tone, you'd say, oh, well, that's like a garage punk band, you know?
Well, you've been somebody that ever since the pandemic, when you really started going into Nashville in earnest, with your music, you've been somebody we talked time to time. Well, really, the one time that we had spoken in between gigs about you've been pitching your stuff to Music Row, and I imagine that a lot of the songs that you've been keeping for yourself aren't the ones that are getting on Music Row. At least that's the way I go about my stuff. Would that be correct with you?
Yeah, I think so. It's an interesting game, right? If you're trying to make a living at this, there are myriad ways to do that, but this whole conversation about commercial viability is a real thing. And I mean, if you're trying to make a dollar off a record, anyway.
Well,
Um,
I mean, there is a formula. I've spoken to this with a couple of industry insiders. You know,
yeah,
you want to write for women. You want to try to stay away from controversial topics. You want to talk about love. You want to talk about loss. You want to try to even write songs for women. At
yeah,
some point, they want it is the audience and it is the focus, and a lot of it also has to do with just sounds familiarity. That's why you see a lot of songs that what's the word that they that often gets used, what they interpolations
right.
of songs that continue to happen. So there is a formula, but I also tend to believe that the old Hollywood saying, how do you gauge a successful film? Well, nobody knows nothing.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. um so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Trevor Toms here on the Craig Veltri interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network. For more on Scarfire Media and Scarfire Media's artist development programs, check out our website, scarfireradio.net. And as far as the podcast network, check out the Cool Brother Podcast, check out the Fire Pit, and thank you for listening to the Craig Veltri interview. You had said in interviews in the past that the pandemic really did push you towards going to Nashville. Now, were you coming from Denver at that point? Like straight on from Denver with just your songs and a guitar on your back?
Yes, sir. I was working with a partner in a landscape design build business. And when quarantine hit, we were an essential service. So I was working like 80 hours a week. And I was thankful for the work. Um, and there's actually here's another Americana artist reference, Jason Isbell.
My
I think,
favorite.
yeah, yeah. Every night I dream I'm drowning in the dirt, but I thank God for the work. I mean,
Um,
what a line, right?
I sometimes want to just go through his garbage just to take the lines that he hasn't been using, because I'm
Right,
sure those are gold and he doesn't even know it.
right. But I felt that there was number one, I was tired, and I'd been in that career for a long time, and then playing music on the weekends, trying to make it with a band on the weekends.
Mm.
And Denver, I ran into a couple interesting people who said, if you really want to make it, this is not the town to try to do that in, for various reasons. The record
Yeah.
industry's not here, etc. Um, and I felt this calling, like people needed to hear my art, they needed to hear my lyrics. And if I was going to do it, I mean, Nashville was open for business, good, bad, or otherwise.
When you say you were doing landscape, uh, I,
Construction,
yeah, were we just talking like building lawns, or were you like building like ball fields, shrubberies,
yeah.
like
It was a mix of residential and commercial work, and I'm actually a landscape architect by trade, so I went to school for that for a long time. But we were doing backyard patios and you know $500,000 landscapes and parks, small parks, pathways, shade structures, pool decks, things like that, and designing and building them.
is that something? I mean, obviously you're a full-time musician, but do you still do any of that work just kind of as a side hustle in Nashville?
And sometimes I'll pick up a design job, but I have tried to leave the shovel in the shed, so to speak. I'm getting a little too old to be, never
Be,
too old to work hard, but too old to be digging ditches.
yeah, beating plowshares into swords, or at least maybe carving it into a guitar at some
Right?
point. Well, so let's talk about some of the just the how you came to the title of Ameri F'n Kinda. Uh, when you have this collection of songs, it really doesn't match up with genre. Did you just who came out with the phrasing for that one?
Yeah, it was the short story is we had an interesting conversation in the studio when I was recording this, with the session players that I hired, whom were all friends of mine, and our producer. And I was going to call it Radio Edit, kind of in the vein of Big Star's number one hit record. That's what they called number one. Their album. They just so egotistically titled number one hit record.
I
And I
dare you to prove us right.
Yeah, and I always thought that was just cheeky. And I was thinking, well, this album I want to be radio ready, which was, a lot different than things I had written in the past. So everything was 3 minutes, 30 seconds. It was melody focused, on the choruses we probably doubled, a bunch of them in songs. Tried to keep the tempo up because when I write solo by myself in a dark room, it's about 90 BPM, maybe 89.
Ballads.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking what could grab attention and kind of walk this line, not give anybody a real full picture, but pique their interest to listen if they're, maybe into Americana, maybe they're into kind of country, maybe they're into rock. They might they might look into this album. They might like this album.
Well, not only is it a great album, it's a great album to have on vinyl. What drove you to? Did you have it in mind to? You've done a lot of promotion for the record. I think I
Yeah.
saw four videos off of that record cycle. You've done a vinyl. Um, I obviously you believed in this record, and obviously you had a lot of buzz around it to put up the finance for all of all those songs and all of those records. I guess my question for all of that, you know, was it great to be living in that album in this particular album cycle? Were you having fun, just kind of giving all those songs that much time on a video? We'll start
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. That was important to me to do not just another group of singles that, I really love this was not a concept album, but I liked
I wouldn't say that myself either.
no.
So.
But I like that process of really diving in and doing something that's a bigger project where all of the music videos and graphics and all kind of um, support the sound, or at least make a nod to where we're coming from. And so that was, I wanted to do a big production. I wanted to do something, my first real big album in Nashville since moving here, and vinyl seemed like a unique thing to have, and a something at a higher price point than a CD, and something that's more marketable than a CD because honestly, people buy CDs for coasters or just, souvenirs these days.
More people buy records for the listening experience than anybody ever bought CDs. I
Yeah,
mean, it's nice to see vinyl racks in Walmart again. So
right.
or at all. Yeah, just
Yeah.
something. But I even though the album is not a concept record, it doesn't have a through narrative. You do hint at the fact that there are some common themes. What would you say those are?
Yeah, there's a lot of this heartbreak and hopefulness throughout the album. So there are a few songs that are about just feeling totally lost, and some that are more about being inspired and coming out of that hopeless space. And the song Further Down the Road is like the it sums that up, I think, beautifully. I think that really talks about both.
I think the album kicks off and really it kind of overarches the record in such a way that I said another song in the record was kind of like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. This one, as far as a theme, maybe not a soundscape, but as far as a theme is concerned, it kind of reminded me of Someday Never Comes.
Oh
And
yeah.
which, yeah, I mean, not a one to one, but it certainly had that same kind of pessimism
Mhm.
about what's coming up in life. What was going on with you when you were writing that song?
There's it's funny. I'll give you a funny anecdote. When I put this one out, my father my father has been paying attention to my music career. He called me and said, "Oh, you put out your Teenage Angst album." And I said, "Oh no. Oh no. That's the most cutting review."
uh,
But
I'll top that off the air. But so would you agree with that?
I think a lot of that was written, that album was written, and these songs were written in a new place in Nashville. I was on my own, making new friends and doing a lot of reflecting on my life because I moved here in my early 30s, and
It's when I did it.
yeah, was having a conversation with younger me. So there's some of that. That's where that some of that comes from, that terseness, right? Some of that.
Well, I, I'll give the gentler side of that. Go easy on yourself. At least you're there. Uh, Trevor Toms here on the Craig-Veltri interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network, scarfireradio.net. If you need a demo made, if you need gigs booked, contact us at scarfireradio@gmail.com. So you felt good enough about this song not only to do a music video. I'm speaking, of course, of Further Down the Road, but you've also re-released it in the last year with fellow singer-songwriter uh, Miles Bali. Uh,
Yeah.
what? Why did you decide to re-release it with another single, and what do you feel that Miles brought to this song?
So funny enough, I met Miles here in Nashville, and he's become a dear friend and you know um, cohort of mine. And he approached me one day and said, "I really love your song Further Down the Road." He said, "I relate to that, even though he's significantly younger than I am. I got about 15 years on him." Um, but he said, "I love that song and my fans love that song. Can I sing the second verse?"
So he's been covering that song anyway.
He's been covering it. And that was huge. That was huge to me.
Great compliment. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was excited to put his own voice on it. He said, I don't want to change the lyrics. I just want to sing the second verse. And he said, I think you should re-release it and keep the momentum going on this tune. So that's what brought it about.
It's one of those songs that surprisingly does work as a duet, and there is it almost is like Burning Man that Dierks Bentley and Brothers Osborne did many years ago. Not
Yeah.
that many years ago, but a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And it's two different voices giving the same perspective on something. It doesn't seem like a conversation between two people, and just the fact it adds an extra validation to it, which is what I really enjoy about it. Is that the feedback you're getting? Is that what you were going for, giving him that second, or what he was going for with that second verse?
Yeah, I think so. You know that I mean, if you play that song slow and acoustically, it's very ballady. I mean, it can be. They're just because the verses are talking about adolescence and trying to figure out how to grow up. And it was cool to have his perspective on it and his voice on it. Because, like I said, I mean, we're about 15 years apart, and so he related to the line in the second verse, you know, at 21 you think you know it all because he was just there. And I said, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a little while ago for me, but it still rings true. So I think it was perfect like that.
Well, after determining that you didn't know it all at 21 and you're still kind of figuring out at this moment, the question usually isn't, are you working on new stuff? It's like, when is the new stuff coming out? So when's the new stuff coming out?
Right. Well, I just hired producer to do the next I'm going to release an EP in the late winter. Um, and we're going to the studio December 7th, so that's coming up here in a month. And I'm excited. This year, so give a little context, I've been writing like a fiend. I have 90 unreleased songs.
Yee.
Now,
Just over the last 2 years?
in the last three,
Oh,
last three.
still,
So
damn.
yeah. And I'd say, um, you know, 25 of those are good songs. And so, and so, I mean, they each have their own things that I like about them or, their own validity. But I think, the next set of projects is four different EP, four different releases, and they're all themed very specifically. Like this next one we're going to do is untitled yet, but we're calling it TT's Dark EP.
um, I, do we need to have a safety check for Trevor Toms? How dark are we talking?
No, it's some kind of heavy themes, but the following project will be a bright EP,
Ah,
right? And these are both going to be more kind of stripped down. Uh, I would say leaning more into my folk side of things. And honestly, you could probably call them folk records. We'll see how they get produced. Um, but then, I've also written a lot of fun party time bar songs, and that's a whole different project. So, but I wanted to
you
kind of,
want the separation for that reason.
yeah, yeah, and really, really, it's easier to wrap my head around it conceptually as a piece of art, um, each release, but also it's easier to explain it to folks, easier to sell it, right? There's certain folks that will quote unquote buy or that I can pitch summer bangers to versus dark, sad folk songs.
Uh, there's someone willing to turn that up, and I'm the weirdo that listens to yacht rock at the gym. So it's yeah, you never know who it's going to hit. Well, Trevor, we have a nice way of closing here on the Craig-Veltri interview. It's called the No Kidding Questionnaire. A couple of rapid fire questions. The first thing that comes to your mind whenever you're ready, and away we go. Childhood celebrity crush.
Ooh, this is gonna sound wild. Diana Ross.
You're younger than me. Why is that?
I had some notion in my head. I had created this.
Well, you were in a doo-wop band,
I
so
was, yeah.
that kind of checks.
All right, so quick backstory. My mom raised me on Motown and classical. And and the Motown side of things, I had really fallen in love with her voice and her stage presence. And when I was a little kid, I was like, Diana Ross, that's she's it.
Have you ever watched her Central Park concert where she almost got rained out and she went on with the show?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a favorite Diana Ross song?
Um, Love is here and now you're gone.
I'm not familiar with that one. I must be
Oof,
honest. Uh,
you have to check it out.
is that one you cover?
It's to me, it's been my what's Moby Dick's white whale. I mean, it's just been a challenge.
Captain Ahab's White Whale.
Yeah, my Captain Ahab's Moby Dick. It's been a challenge to figure out how to do it in my voice and style. So I play it for myself, but not out yet.
We'll be on the lookout for that. What was your favorite subject in school?
I always loved Spanish language. Language was fun for
Are you
me.
fluent?
I am.
It's I hate to draw the obvious, but obviously that must have been helpful in your former line of work.
Yeah, yeah. I learned formal Castellano in school, Castilian Spanish in school, and then I learned like Mexican for the cruise, and it was great. And everybody laughed at me because I spoke with a funny mix of language.
The greatest regret of my schooling was that I didn't take Spanish. Instead, I took French, and
Mhm.
I may have had to use that a handful of times. It was useful, and all of them were party tricks. I've never been to Quebec, and I've never been to France. So, I think
You're
honestly, in this country, it should not even be an elective. I believe.
right,
I think that it should just be you take Spanish.
right. Well, it sounds like you're due for a trip.
Yeah, as soon as I can get out of the loop that I've been on between Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, and Tennessee, maybe I'll consider getting to one of the places. But
Yeah.
C'est la vie. Uh, what occupation other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always thought it would be fun to be like a cartoonist and an illustrator or something like that. And it's been a long time since I've been in the graphic arts, but
So is that to say you weren't involved in any of the graphic design on, say, Ameri F'n Kinda?
well, that was all me. But so I get to play around when these projects come up, and that's a fun thing for me. It takes a while. I want to think through it. And actually, I want to make a reference that the album title for Mara Effin Kinda is it's kind of strange. It's a nod to the Sweetheart of the Rodeo album by the Byrds.
Wow, there's
And
a reference.
and nothing on that record sounds like Sweetheart of the Rodeo. It doesn't sound like Graham Parsons. I really admire his work, and I really loved the artwork of that hand-drawn cover.
Well, we'll throw the album up again. You lying in a grassy field. I mean, that does give '60s vibes to it. You do have expect to hear some 12-string Rickenbackers and three-part harmonies coming out of the
Right,
speakers when you do uh, turn drop the needle down and listen to it.
right,
Not to say it was worse for it, but
right, right.
it definitely gave that vibe. And you did hit enough of the '60s to warrant all of that. So not merely graphic design, but you say a cartoonist. What kind of cartoons would you be thinking? Like
Yeah,
original
I don't
work
know.
or
I always loved just comic strips. I think I'm always going to be 8 years old and
reading funnies?
yeah, reading the funnies, man. I still would go there immediately, even if it's the New Yorker. I go straight to the back first, and then we'll go,
Yeah. I if I read newspapers, I probably would. It'd probably be the sports, then the comic section
Yeah.
myself. On the other side of the coin, Trevor, I don't care how many bags of money are handed to you. Under no circumstances, what job would you never want to attempt? And it can be something you've done before.
Ooh, yeah. Um, I've washed a lot of dishes in my life. That's if I ever saw the inside of a dish pit again, that'd be wonderful.
I, I I consider us service industry adjacent, working bar gigs. I'm glad that we don't have to deal with the public unless we address them, and we don't have to deal with the aftermath of their eating habits. So
Yeah, right.
blessed be there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
Speaking of food, what is your go-to food on a road trip?
Oh man, it's changed a lot. You know how touring on the road is.
Oh yeah.
It's it's a lot of fast food and stale coffee and hotel continental breakfasts.
If you can afford the hotel with the breakfast.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing better than beef jerky and a cup of coffee to get you going.
How do you take your coffee?
I a little bit of almond milk or some sort of cream, but tis the season for pumpkin spice, and I have to admit, I'm a big fan.
I like it too. I like it too. I will also throw this in there as well. Do you have a preference on not merely the spicing of it, but do you have a preference on roasts? Do you prefer Colombian French?
I've got a French press at home. I like to do a little darker and something that gets you really going. But I stopped drinking cowboy coffee when I stopped doing construction. So trying not to-
Cowboy coffee. What do you?
oh, where the grounds are, your
Oh,
mouth and it's just blacker than night and take the skin right off of your tongue.
yeah. So, is a convenience store? Or are you stopping at one of the I guess you can call them boutique chains? Starbucks,
Yeah.
Dunkin', the usual.
If I can, I'll stop by a little something better than the convenience store. But when I was on the road playing music in my 20s, it was just like wherever we can get it, wherever it was free.
Whatever perks, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've always thought as morose and as tormented as he was, Edgar Allan Poe,
Hmm.
I would like to just have a quiet candlelit dinner with him and hear what he has to say because I've read a lot of his work and I just you know think maybe I could get a little inside scoop
Do
into
you
how
have a what is your favorite Poe piece, and or any of the is any of his influence coming up on, say, the Darker album coming up?
oh I think there's definitely going to be some influence there but he I would say I'd be Telltale Heart was a great story. The Raven is iconic for what it is, but his rhyming scheme and his his pace has always fascinated me.
I don't say this just because I'm a Steelers fan, but I always thought the Raven was kind of more pathetic than it was frightening. But the pit and the pendulum, just the visual of that
Oof,
alone is okay. That was the one that floored me as far as okay, this is some special kind of messed up, and
right?
Saw has nothing on this. So, but what is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, biggest pet peeve. I would say um, road rage is pretty up there for me.
Is that so that to say uh coming out of you, or just dealing with the overly aggressive?
I would say both. I used to be, get so worked up in traffic and I had to really work on myself. Be like, hey man, you can be a little more enlightened, I'm not gonna let somebody else ruin my day. But now as you see it on the road, you see people just so angry. And I'm like, hey, just calm down. That's all you have to do is just nobody's making you feel this way but you.
Yeah, very true. Every day is a choice between misery and happiness. People just need to learn. I had to learn that pretty late in my life. Talking about traffic, I've heard a lot about Denver, Colorado, where you're from originally. Um, I can't imagine. I've never met anybody from Colorado that really had. I would consider hot tempered. Is it because the traffic in Denver isn't that bad, or was it just experiencing Nashville for the last 5 years?
It's funny. Uh, no, it's that Denver was always really chill. It was, hippies and cowboys.
Mm.
It was a town on the edge of the mountains, and growing up there felt like everybody would look you in the eye and smile walking down the street. And then, but it's a boom town, and the last 20 years, everybody and their brother and sister and mother moved in, and traffic is wild. When people complain about traffic in Nashville, I'm like, yeah, I mean, just try LA or Denver or New York or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, try getting through downtown at 5 o'clock and talk to me about how much of a
Yeah.
pain in the butt. But as I realized as a DoorDash driver in
Ooh,
Nashville and Pittsburgh for a little while, let me just put it this way: 3 miles in Nashville is not equal to 3 miles in Pittsburgh.
no, not even close. Not even close.
So, uh, honestly, I prefer Nashville traffic for that reason. So,
Right?
um, last question of the questionnaire: what is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
I got three things. Well, be humble and kind. Those are two things that somebody just said, if you can do that, your life won't be as hard. And you're gonna improve others' lives. So
Though you got mountains to climb.
yeah. Right?
well, well, Trevor, last bit of business for you. It should be the favorite part of every guest on this show. It is time for shameless self promotion. The new version of Further Down the Road is available now. Among all your other products, where can we find all of your stuff? Plug your pluggables. Fire away.
Oh yeah, we're on all the streaming services, Apple, Spotify, um, Tidal, OnlyFans, wherever you get your music.
Really, only fan.
No, I no.
I mean, you can put that kind of content out and not have to
Yeah,
show your feet and other stuff.
right, right. I mean, there are artists who do music there, but
Yeah, Bella
no,
Thorne pissed so many people off.
right.
Continue. I digress.
All good. But yeah, and the vinyl record's available in on the website trevortoms.com. It's a real website. Tom's like the shoes, and in some select stores in Nashville and the surrounding states around Tennessee.
Bonus question, because I did look at your website and I did notice your logo is a spade. Uh, was that a tribute to your prior line of work?
That's that's great. No, it's not. It's funny. It came from used to have a big golden bloody heart as a logo. Uh and I carried this logo was hand painted on a big sheet of 4x8 plywood with my name on it. And I would take this to shows in the bed of my pickup truck. This is before vinyl banners were like ubiquitous. And
Naturally, yeah.
and people always made fun of me for carrying this big heavy thing around. But since moving to Nashville, I've lightened up a lot and grown up a lot, and I needed to transition to something that was not nearly as heavy as a solid gold bloody heart, and something that's easily recognizable and yet unique.
Uh, it's very sleek and I think you know shows that you have been on quite a good string of luck in the last couple of couple of album cycles, and hopefully that will continue for you in the coming weeks, months, and years. Trevor Toms, thank you so much for joining me here on the Craig Veltri interview.
Thank you, Craig.
The Craig Veltri interview, where Craig Veltri interviews wonderful people, is a production of Scarfire Media, the voice of the independent artist. Written and edited by Craig Veltri. Your announcer is Megan Pennington. The opening theme, Shut Up, I Love You, written by Trenton Chandler and Craig Veltri. Performed by Craig Veltri. Produced by Jack Gavin. Time now to update the event calendar because you must know where I am at all times. Friday, November the 14th, Tin Roof Memphis with a full band from 7 to 10 p.m. Saturday, November 15th, Tin Roof Memphis by myself from 3 to 6:30. Sunday, November 16th, The Lounge on 2nd Avenue in Nashville from 2 to 6 p.m. That's a solo show as well. Also on the 16th of November, Megan Pennington and I will be appearing on the Grassroots Show on the Rock Station 97.7, courtesy of Butler Radio and our friends Bob Cupp and Utah Burgess. We cannot thank those guys enough for having us on to give you guys the first look, the first listen to cuts off of the Moonshine Vagabonds first record, Inside the Cabin. We can't wait to play those songs on the radio, and we can't wait for you guys to listen and give your feedback on our Facebook page. Search Moonshine Vagabonds on Facebook. Finishing out the gigs for the week in question, November 20th, Drifters East Nashville. That's a solo show from 6 to 9 p.m. For full dates, including Charlotte, Canton, Ohio, Nashville, and Memphis, visit my website, craig-veltri.bandzoogle.com. That's craig-veltri.bandzoogle.com. For booking info, including full band and this podcast, email me at craig-veltri@gmail.com. You can find the interview on Facebook by searching the Craig Veltri interview, YouTube at Craig Veltri Music, and you can find me on Instagram, or as my old roommate, the Tommy Thomas, used to call it, Instagirl, at craig.veltri. For Trevor Toms, I'm Craig Veltri, and this has been the Craig Veltri interview. With that, I'll pass. Here's Trevor Toms with Further Down the Road on the Craig Veltri interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network.
Shadows from your bed. The only safe place you can go when the fighting starts again. Why can't your parents seem to get along? Why do they have to separate? Didn't know you'd have to be this strong at such an early age. You may not understand down the road.